What you doing, Rosebud? You okay, girl? I'm SoCal. Hey, buddy. Glad to see you. I just started the stream up. I was just about to ask if it was coming through. It's not showing up the same on my end as it did before my phone died. Hey, Ryan. Oh. Crystal, how are you guys doing? Thank you for joining me. I want to apologize about the delay these last few months. We've been hit with a lot of just non-stop chaos. My camera, I dropped it and pretty much killed it, but my phone was my main camera, and I woke up one morning and it just no longer worked, and they replaced it for me. And the new one, I can't get on to none of my the sites that I use normally, and I had a hard time with YouTube. I had a hard time with Google. For the most part, I've got it all worked out. Rosie is inside. She's watching a movie. And Belle, I don't see. Oh, there she is. I've been working on trying to clean this mess up around here. The burn barrel there, the old burn barrel, I went to pick it up and move it, and the bottom is rotted out of it, and I don't want that stuff to. It's got a bunch of metal cans, and some of the boards that we burned had nails in them. There's Belle and Benji. I was running behind today. I'm by myself doing all the feedings, and ain't up to par. I'm feeling kind of rough, but it's all good. I just got finished feeding them. I wanted to show you guys some of the new babies. While I was out here, I'm trying to locate where they went. We have several. We got a lot of mothers that are due. Delilah, that one there, she's pregnant, but she's still got probably another month to go. And Hope, she's not far off, and she'll be having her another baby. And Miss Mary down there, white one at the end down there, she's due any day. And Tickles, the red one next to her, she's got about a month. We've got so many that are pregnant. That's Hope's first baby there, and she's a sweet little goat. I'm just trying to locate where some of the little babies went. And if I could find Gumdrop, you guys remember her, we had live streamed. That was Big Girl's baby that we had, her birth, we put her on the live stream. If I could find where she went, she is absolutely beautiful. And she's due. And this little thing here is due. She's our crippled goat. She was born with deformed feet, and you can't cut them. Hey girl, can I see your foot? Can you lift your foot up for a second? But her feet they're mushroomed out like an old goat, but they can't be cut because the pads of her feet go to the edge of them deformed looking hooves. And Sophie, she's pregnant again, and that was accidental. We did not want that to happen. Oh, there's the babies. Okay. We got a baby born this year that she was a twin. Her twin did not make it. I've never seen babies this small. We've had some tiny ones born because we do have some micro goats. We have some miniatures. But I have never seen one this little. This is one of the new rescues right there. She's a Nigerian, a very sweet little goat. And we got 4 of them. There's Gumdrop. She is so pretty. But look at this little baby. And she is over a week old. They're running from the dogs. The dogs won't hurt them. These dogs won't. Well, come here. Come here. Can I see you? Come here a minute. Come here. Hush, Waddles. Go get your ball, buddy. I want to pick her up. You guys can see how small she is. Her mother is that brown and white one right there with blue eyes. That's Mama. And this one here, she's also pregnant. The 4 that we got, they were really fat, and we asked them about any chance of them being pregnant, and we were told there's no chance at all because the woman who had them did not have a male, and so far all of them are pregnant. And that's one of the new babies. That one there, I think she's 3 weeks old. And she's a week and a half. Can I see you? Come here, baby. Come here just for a minute. I don't know if you guys can see how little she is. I mean, she is so tiny. I've never seen a goat that small. And little Dorothy there, I'm sure y'all remember her from past videos. She had an emergency C-section on her pregnancy. She's full grown. She's a micro. A little bigger than a house cat. But I'll show you on this baby here. Kim named her Corona, and I don't like it, but she named it. But that's the baby compared to a milk crate, to give you an idea of the. And she is nibbling on hard food. But I've never seen a baby that little before. Not at over almost 2 weeks old. I've never seen that. But she's adorable. I wish we had a bunch of them. We could lay a 5-gallon bucket on its side and house 2 at a time. Ryan, we've got plenty, buddy. We've got a bunch of mamas that are pregnant. If any of you guys ever get down this direction, we're in the panhandle of Florida. If y'all are looking to get started up with some goats, get up with me on here. And we don't support the meat market with them. We were unsure in the beginning if that was God's intention for us when He put us on this path, but after several prayers and being hit pretty hard emotionally with the answer that it's definitely not the meat market. There's Abby. But we've got a few goats that are considered meat goats. They won't never go to the market at all. Benji's one of them, and I'll give you my home before I sold you him. We got a few more babies. I don't know where they're at. I'm looking for them. I wanted to show you guys Daisy, that one right there in front of me. She's got a beautiful little baby and very sweet goat. And Kim had to intervene with the delivery. Well, come on. Are you coming in here? Well, come on. We got a hole cut out right there. Belle got her head stuck in these bars, her horns, and I had to cut the bar out so we can get her out. She's a lot of goat to be handling when she panics. We got another one coming right here. She's due any day now. That's Sophie's baby. And you guys seen how small Sophie is. I don't see where the other babies run off to. They're out here somewhere. I'm sorry, I'm looking for them. There's There's two of them. These are, I think they're 4 weeks old, these two. They're not siblings. And we had 4 or 5 that were born somewhere around 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they're all about that size. I don't see where the other ones went. That big white one hitting the fence, little Abby up front, she's a micro, but that's her offspring, that's her baby. Beanbag, and there's nothing little about him. And most of these babies in here are his. The white with the blue eyes, that's Beanbag. I think the other babies are hiding. There's a couple of them up by Benji. I don't see the one I'm looking for. She's here somewhere. I'm not sure where. She may be sleeping. She's eating a little bit, but she's also still nursing. There's a big girl and Gumdrop. That was the baby that you guys seen on the live stream. She's almost as big as her mama. But she's gonna be large. She's like, big girl, what are you doing? We think we were successful at preventing her from getting bred. But you guys, want to update you on what all has happened. I have made a few hikes, and I had video recorded. I lost all of it. It uploaded and showed that it was uploaded, and when I went to the channel to make sure they uploaded right, they were not there. They were gone. And for some reason, it deleted it out of my gallery on my phone as well. I've had a lot of problems, and I don't know what was going on with it. It almost feels like somebody externally has been messing with my phone. But one of the walks that I went on, I went to that area where I ran into the game warden that day during hunting season, and he had them guys with him that were in the black uniforms. I went back to that area here not too long ago, and it was dead in there. I don't know if they done anything. It could just be coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidence. Everything happens for a reason, in my opinion. But when I got up there, there weren't any tracks, any wildlife tracks at all. And that area it's overrun with deer. Mostly small deer, but it's just overrun with them. And I didn't see any deer tracks. I didn't see any fox tracks. I didn't see anything. No boot tracks, no nothing. And I went to the far end of it, and that's where I normally, I get growled at a lot down there, and I'll have stuff that get thrown near me, not at me, but they'll throw stuff close to me. And I went down there, and the swamp was too full. Hey, Roscoe. The swamp was too full to get back to the area I normally go. That's where we seen that thing in the tree. It looked like an overgrown raccoon from where me and Cody were standing at. And when it moved, we realized it wasn't a raccoon, and it started growling, so we left. Didn't feel like it was a good situation to be in, but anyhow, I tried to get back to that same spot because I always get something in that area. I'll get that mumbling sound, almost as though there's people talking, but you can't understand what they're saying. It's really faint. But since I couldn't make it back there, all I had on was my snake boots, and the water was probably thigh deep or better, and I wasn't ready to get wet. So I backed out, and I went down the logging road that goes between the two swamps, which put me at the back side of that area. And back in there's some trees that are bent over, and there's several of them where it looks like deadfall, but I can't figure out where the trees came from. They don't have roots on them. It's just like a top half of the tree, but there's no bottom half, and there's nowhere in the treetops where they came, and they're stood up like a letter X, and there's quite a few of them in that area. But you can walk toward one, and if you look past it, within about 50 yards there'll be another one. It's almost like a path. And I was back in there, and I heard a clapping sound, and just like I'm holding the camera facing the goat now, I pointed the camera toward that clapping sound, and from behind me I heard something breaking through the canopy, through the leaves and the limbs of the trees that were standing behind me. And before I can get turned around, it hit a tree behind me and on my left side, and a piece of it hit me. And I got scared and I left. But I wanted to go back up there, and I'd planned on going back up there. The weather was right, everything was good, but I couldn't get my phone to connect. I could do the live stream, but when I pull it up, I still got 2 live streams on the channel, and it has a chain link icon on it, and I cannot figure out what that means, but there's 0 watch time and 0 views, and it's been up there I guess about a week. But about 2 or 3 hours ago I went ahead and deleted them off of there, and I'm hoping this goes through. I think it did. I've seen you guys there for a little while. I think y'all are still with me, but I was wanting to, for y'all, you guys that didn't catch the short little live stream I did, one of the live streams that I did, one of the longer ones that did not upload, I was talking about this area right here. And there's a little pond right here, a sinkhole, right behind that tree that's broke. And a year and a half ago, we had Gypsy in the front area up here with the goats. And she was running around in circles one night, and the goats were all down at this end, and they were all staring this direction. And I walked down here with a flashlight on that side next to that compost bed, that boat hole, and I turned the light on when I got right behind that little forked oak tree. And when I did, whatever was over here took off, and he went around the back side of that sinkhole and then up over the hill, and he stopped. I didn't see him until he got on that side. Once he got stopped and I shined the light that direction, I was trying to find him and I couldn't see him. But when he stopped, I seen eyes, and they were a gold color. They weren't red. They looked gold, like a golden yellow color. But I never seen him. But this past week we started having activity on this side again, and I don't know if one of them guys, when the big fellas are in here, I don't know where he's staying. That's not a big area at all. A quarter mile straight from us right here is another highway, like this one that you guys see. So that area isn't large whatsoever. And there's a lake. I don't know if you guys can see that lake way back in the distance there, right past our property line. There's another lake, and it's open between that lake and these woods, so there's nowhere for whatever it was to come. But the other day when I was doing a live stream, I was shining the camera through here. Let me see if I can see it on the screen. Right through there, that gray spot, it's some type of, it looks like tulip leaves that grow normally at the water's edge, but it's died. It only grows in the cold season. Right behind that, there was something very big. It was black. It was just as black could be, but I could see it clearly in the night, and it was moving. And I zoomed in on it, and it was without a doubt moving. I did not walk over there to see if there's any tracks, but I think we got them. I think one of them guys, when the big fellas are back. This is one of our new family members. This is Goomba. One of Kim's friends had got him. They originally got him as a meat goat, and she bonded with him, the lady who had him, and they couldn't butcher him, and so he was a house pet. He's large. He's very close to the 200-pound mark. And she asked us if we could take him, because she knew if they had took him to an auction or any of those sales that he would definitely go to the meat market. He's a boar goat, and he's young. He's still got some growing to go, but we brought him here, and he's fit in nicely. But he's one of them. He is skittish around people he doesn't know, but he's one of them that was down here and alerted to something in here, and I didn't hear the thumping like we heard about a year and a half ago, because whenever it walked off, whatever was there, you could hear the individual footsteps, but there was a lot of thumping, like he was stomping the ground when he walked off, and he moved. He covered a lot of ground really fast, but I never got to actually lay eyes on him. But we come in there last week. Louie got out. Louie hopped on top of this boat. Is also a compost bed, and Louie gets on the edge of it, and it's a few feet from there to the chain link, and he jumps on top of the chain link fence, and he walks that little thin pipe, and then he jumps over. And so I had to go get him the first time and walk him around, and he was over here, but the trail, it comes right where that tree is broke right there. The trail comes right on the other side of that. And when I walked him out, that tree was not broke over, because the trail is clear all the way up. But then just a couple of days ago, Louie got over there again, and we had to get him. And I seen the tree down, but you can't get past it on the end, because the top of it over here is blocking the little trail where it comes to the next to our fence. He's spoiled. He's wanting loving. Hey, buddy. But I'm planning on going over near Bristol, Florida. For you guys that know that area, there's Belle. That's the area where my nephew had his encounter, and he won't go over there, and he hasn't told me exactly where it's at, but he told me the name of the state land that he was on, and there's only a couple of roads, dirt roads on that land that will take you to the river, and they were on one of them. So I'm gonna go and ride out both of them and see if I can't find some tracks or just some type of sign of one of the big guys. Hey, Sophie. No. But we've been up at the property. If you guys seen the video, the property is where we had I was putting gifts out for them, and something disassembled the baseball, and then I found the 2 deer heads laying there. We ended up, I took the tractor up there and I started clearing some of that. I'm gonna go ahead and clear that back section and to where we can pasture it, and I'm hoping that by clearing it, I don't know how many of them things live in there, but I'm hoping that once I clear it, that they won't have a desire to be on our side of the property line, because I don't want them to take one of the goats. And I'm afraid we usually take the goats up there, but we stay with them and we let them just eat the growth. Benji, quit, buddy. And I've been afraid to take them up there. I don't want anything to happen to them, and if one of them big things grabs one, what do you do? I don't think it would do any good at all if you were to shoot at one of them. I think you'd put yourself in a very bad situation. Hey guys, Benji, he eats the buttons off my shirt. He don't swallow them, he just chews them off and he spits them out. Quit, buddy. Let me get up out of the sun. But I do have plans to take a few road trips. The 3 places I'm looking on going are close. They're within an hour and a half of here. And all 3 places I've gotten reports. Oh, there's the baby. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to jump subject on you. That's Daisy's little baby. That's the fur ball. Kim had to help deliver that one. Daisy was having some problems. And there's Louie. Hey, buddy. He's a lover boy. But we're, I'm hoping one of the areas that I'm wanting to go to, a friend of mine has property over there, and he's been having encounters with what he described as one of the big caveman type creatures, but he's got pointed ears, and he said he's got a snout. It looks like the head of a dog on him. And where his creek is that runs back down at the north end of his property, he walks, he's got an area cleared down there. He's got a trail that goes down to the water's edge, and it's about 20 feet across the creek. It's around 4 or 5 foot deep. It's not deep enough you can run through it. You could probably wade across it if it hadn't rained. But he goes down there and he sits in his chair just to be by the water and in his peaceful area, and these things will come out. They'll stand out in the open from behind a tree, and he said that they're just a few feet on the other side of the creek, directly across from him, and they'll stare at him. And it scared him, so when they come out, he heads back to his house. But he said everything that he's seen has a head of a dog. And I asked him if it was just one that he keeps seeing over and over, or if there are a whole bunch of them. And he doesn't know. He said, I seen 2 at the same time. One stepped out from behind a tree, and about 50 or 60 feet to the left of him, another one was evidently already standing there, and it squatted down. And that's when he noticed that one. And he said both of them are real lanky, very thin, but he said they look like one of the big fellas, one of the Sasquatch things, but it's got a dog head. And I'm not going to cross the creek, but we're going to go down there and try to set up some cameras, try to get something, raking area on his side. We're going to get all the leaves, and there's a real thick mat on top of the ground from all the leaves that's fallen through the years. And we're going to clear all that out and rake it to where if anything walks across it, you'll see the tracks. And then we're going to try to put up a couple of game cameras. He's got one of the real old ones, and he doesn't believe it's got that infrared trigger that sets it off. I don't know. I know the new ones, some of them have infrared light, but I don't know enough about that stuff. But hopefully we'll get something on camera there. I asked him if I could do a live stream over there, and he said if I can get signal, I can do whatever I wanted. But he doesn't get a good signal, and we are both with Verizon. So I don't know. I'm hoping that I've got a little better phone than he does, so I'm hoping that I can get a signal at least long enough to do a little live stream. There's Belle. Belle, what are you doing, girl? Oh, you picking leaves. Belle's had her hands full these last few weeks with the new goats. The babies she doesn't bother, but the adults, the new ones that we've added, she establishes who she is with the pack, and it's about settled down now. And the Roscoe and Louie tried to get on top of that little tent, and they've collapsed it. Yeah, SoCal, that's Rebel. That is definitely Rebel. Here's Louie. I don't know if you guys have noticed here, we got the tractor, so I'm able to do a lot more than I could before. The old hoop house that was here, I was able to pull the poles out of the ground, get the footers up. We tore all that down, and we got the canvas, got all that stuff in the back, and we're going to put another hoop house in the very back and probably do a small one up front for the little goats. We lock them up front at night. I don't want them back here with the big ones. If they get stepped on, we have lost a few babies through the years from the big ones stepping on them, and we just don't want to do that again. Hey girl. I gotta go get her out. But we're working on getting the property where we've had so much activity with all the bizarre stuff. We're working on getting that cleared so we can get a pole barn put up, and to where we can bring the goats up and just spend the entire day up there with them and not worry about one of these, not so much these cavemen creatures, but the other things that are up there. I don't want nothing to take one of the goats. I still got to tear all that down. Come here, girl. Well, come on. Come on down here. She's panicking. She got through and she can't get back. Hey, come here. Come on. You gonna come through? Roscoe, quit, buddy. I think I'm gonna have to go get her. RJ, stay right there, buddy. Oh. This fence is so banged up from the hurricane. I've got just junk tied to it and wired to it, trying to hold it together. We've got the material to put the new fence up, but we're trying to get the problem with there's a discrepancy with the survey, our survey, and the neighbor behind us, and we got to get that straightened out before we put the new fence up. Come here, girl. Well, come on. Are you coming? Well, come here. Are you? You got to come over here. Come on. And she's stuck. I'm gonna have to go and get her. I don't know. Did you guys see this? This was the hoop house I replaced the boys with. The hurricane laid theirs down. This one's got 3 canopies, 3 heavy vinyl coverings over them, and it's actually quite warm in here in winter. And then I've got that solar light, so at night, if something happens that they get startled, when they sit up, the light comes on and it lights this whole house up. I picked that up for about $30 from Harbor Freight, and it's been up there, I think, a little over a year now, and it's still on the same batteries. It still works. Malachi got his horn broke since last time I talked to you guys. He got into a fight with Beanbag, and Beanbag broke his horn. Are you ready? Well, come here. Come here, girl. And this is all from Malachi and Splinter. Come here. Come on. Well, come on. You coming? Come on, girl. Come here. Well, come on. Hey, buddy. He's a big lover boy, too. Let me see if I can get him out. But I want to take you guys with me on my next hike. I'm hoping I can get over to that area that's where my buddy's place is. It's about an hour from here. And I asked him if I could bring a friend with me because he doesn't want to cross the creek. I don't think I'm going to, but it depends on what I find and how it feels. But I'm not going to do it alone. But he doesn't want me to bring anybody out there. He's afraid it'll lead to trouble with. He's kind of spooked of the internet, and he thinks if we put a video up of the back of his property, that it'll draw unwanted attention. Are you ready? Yeah, SoCal, that's Rebel she can't get on top of that one. She wasn't able to get on top of the other one until Hurricane Michael came and knocked it down. Are you ready to get out? I'm back sore, so I ain't gonna do much crawling. Yeah, we've got the new poles to put the new fence up. All the poles are under them tarps, and there's a pile there. That hole you guys see right here, that's where I've been burning the material from the old hoop houses. The wood, we've been burning all of that, and if you can see, there's a pile of tarps back over here, the big vinyl signs. We got to haul them to the dump. I tried to burn a very small one, a little 4 foot by 5 foot square, and it smoked and it was awful. So we're not even gonna mess with them. We're just gonna take them to the dump. Come on, girl, you ready? Daphne, you ready? Come on. Hey, beanbag. She's still trying to find the way out. Well, come on, girl. Come on, you are you ready? I'll have to wait till I put the camera up and get her. No, Belle, you're not coming in. Move, Roscoe. Anytime I open the gate, I got these two wanting to start trouble in here. Back up, Belle. Come on, big girl. Oh, Belle, you're fat. So that's calling the kettle black, huh? And there's our other troublemaker. There's RJ. If you guys that don't know, he was the one, he's a pygmy, and he was mauled by a hog. That's why he doesn't have any ears and his horns are deformed. When he was little, a hog ate his ears off, ate his horns off his head. His horns are only about an inch and a half long. And that daggone pig ate them completely off of him. And he was supposed to have died. We took him to the vet, and the 3 veterinarians up there at the animal hospital that we used, all 3 of them said that he wasn't going to make it, and they recommended putting him down. But we laid hands on him, and the vets worked on him. They really put forth effort, and here it is 4 years later, and he's put off some beautiful babies, and he's one of the best goats that we got. He's just as good as he can be. But you see what's left of his ears. And okay, Belle. Belle's wanting attention. She's spoiled. But if all goes well, I've got 2 places, or 3 places I'm wanting to go. 2 of them I'm definitely going. The 3rd one is my buddy's house, and I do not want to go out there alone. If he's got them things up there. All right, SoCal, I got you, buddy. Absolutely. Thank you, Crystal. But if I can bring somebody with me to this place, then I'll go out there. And I'm scared to be out in the woods with them creatures, the ones that have the dog head on them. I don't know, something ain't right about them. And every time I hear people that have encounters with them, they're never good encounters. A lot of people end up having nightmares afterwards. A lot of them have them things actually show up at their house, and they may be 30 or 40 miles from where they've had their encounter, and somehow they'll find the person. Yeah, dog man, Ryan, you're right, buddy. That's what I believe it is. I don't know. Every time I hear an encounter story about them, it reminds me of these people that do the paranormal investigations, and they talk about the devil dogs. And if you remember, when I think all of us, when we were in middle school in history, if you remember the cave paintings, when we were learning about the Native Americans, they had paintings in the caves of a tall god type being with the head of a dog. And I'm curious if that's what they were, and maybe something happened that the whatever agreement or collaboration between man and them things they had at the time, something happened to have broke it. I don't know. Belle, you're a nasty girl. What'd you get into? You need a bath. If I ignore her, she does this, and she'll start pushing me in a minute. And that gal right there is large. She'll push me over. There's Goomba. He's the biggest one we got in here. Him and Louie and Belle, of course, but she's the boss. But if I could get it set up with him to go over and do a investigation at his place to see what we can find. I'm not going to go out there if he won't allow me to bring somebody with me. I don't want to run into one of them things, them dog man creatures. Ryan, I just I see your posts on there that you encountered one. I don't know about them, buddy. I'm scared of them. I'm scared of these cavemen guys, the Sasquatch. They scare me. But if he'll allow me to bring a friend with me over there, I'll go. And I'm gonna see if he'll let me live stream it. He's kind of weird about the internet. He told me if I come up there, I gotta promise him that I'll have my GPS turned off on my phone. He thinks the FBI will track me and track anybody that goes to his property. And he's an odd one, but he's had a rough life, had a lot of bad things happen to him, so I can't blame him. Not to jump off subject, if you guys can see what Ryan had posted on there, did you smell him? Was there any that rotten stench from them things when you had your encounter? I know most of the time with these cavemen things, they usually have a stink to them. The encounter I had in Marianna, that real bad encounter, he was horrible. He had a real strong wet dog smell, like a sweaty wet dog. And I just seen your comment. That's about what them other ones, the cavemen guys, smelled like. But it smelled like they had a lot of urine, like soured urine was mixed in with it. But you know, one of the areas that I hunt at, I have not, oh no, I take that back, I did. If you guys remember the video, I believe it was last year, I labeled it the 200-pound squirrel. I had that thing up in the top of the tree that was moving around, and I got creeped out and I ended up leaving. I'm reading your comment, Ryan. Might have been... What is that? Gugwe? Is that right? I haven't heard of that. But that area, that same spot, that video I did, the 200-pound squirrel, we were hunting in that area several years before I did that video. And we were after wild pigs. And down this, there's a low corner in that area. It's dry, but it has a swamp in it. And you can walk all the way around it. It's probably 200 yards long and about 40 or 50 yards wide. Yeah, Crystal, I remember. Absolutely remember. I lost that. It was on my phone that died, and I lost all my pictures. I lost everything I had on it. I was just telling a friend about that screenshot. But that same area, when we were hunting in there where the swamp is, it's not hills like what you guys have. Down here, if you can see where our yard tapers upwards, that's considered a hill. In that area over there where I filmed the 200-pound squirrel, there are hills, these little rolling hills that are on the edges of the swamp. And we were following a group of pigs, and they went over one of the little hills into the next side of the swamp, and we crossed. It was me and two friends, and we were trying to get to where we can get around the pigs and get a shot at one of them. And we all shoot muzzleloader, so we only have one shot. There is no follow-up. But when we come over one of the hills, there was what looked like a large coyote, and he was running. He was just coming up over the top of the hill, running away from us, but he was on 2 feet. And I never heard anything about them dog creatures. I just recently, the last couple of years, is when I heard of them for the first time. But that's what we seen that day up there. I had video of it because we were filming that hunt. And it looks like just a large coyote. It wasn't big. Standing on the back legs, it may have been 4 foot. It was about the size of a large coyote. But we never seen it again. He was up and gone. I missed your comment, Ryan. Sorry, buddy. I was looking at the baby. The gland you're talking about in the armpits, is that what puts off that rank, that odor that it burns your nostrils? It's almost like it's hot, like it's steam. Is that what creates that? Wow. I had no idea. I was interviewed by Wes, I don't remember his last name, from Sasquatch Chronicles. He interviewed me, and before the actual show, he was asking me about the smell, and if I smelled him, and I said, yeah, you know, yes, that's him, Ryan. I couldn't remember the last name, but in the interview, Wes has run into them things evidently several times, because he described a lot of what I saw. He already knew, and it blew me away. But up until the point I talked to him, I would not be in the woods at dark. And I hunt. I've always lived off the land. My parents did it. We've always provided our own meat. And I had that encounter, I believe it was 2010 in Marianna, Florida. And that's the one where that thing stepped out from the thicket on the path behind me. He was about 5 foot from me. And I turned around expecting to see a bear, which I'm petrified of a bear. And I've never encountered a bear. But my brother-in-law, he works in the woods. His career is working in the woods with the paper company. And he knows a lot about the bears, and he told me you can always smell them before you see them. They stink. And that's what happened that night. I heard him, but I smelled him, and I knew it was the bear. And when he stepped out behind me, I was at the edge of having a heart attack, because I knew there was a bear behind me about to take me out. And I slowly turned to expect to see a waist-high bear sitting there looking at me. And this thing was towering over me. He was between 4 and 5 feet from me. And he had his fists were clenched. And he was kind of like he had him balled up like a boxer, but he would throw his fist toward the ground and he'd stomp his foot at the same time. And he was growling at me, but he had teeth like we have. Not the pointed teeth like you see in a dog or a predator. He had regular, like people teeth. But the smell was rancid. And looking at him in the face, and it was during the nighttime. We had a big moon that night, and I seen the wrinkles on his face. He had what I think was either moles or freckles on his face, or he had mud splotches. He had spots on one side of his face. It looked like freckles, big freckles. And his mouth was really wide. He had a big bottom lip, but it didn't seem like there was any top lip whatsoever. But I was looking into the face of a caveman. And that's, you guys, if any of y'all ever wondered why I call them cavemen, in my heart, my belief is that they are what science is trying to convince us that cavemen are. Because it looked like the pictures we seen as children, the depiction of a caveman. That's what this thing looked like. But his head was, it didn't go back from his eyebrows like some of the pictures of the Neanderthal people. His head went really tall in the back, really high. Ryan, is that a website, that Venomous Fringe? I'm reading your comment on there. I'm having to stay in the shadows to read what you guys are writing. I'm on my phone, if I haven't told you. I no longer have the camera. It died. Oh, okay, buddy. I got it. Do you guys, do y'all interview people like Wes does? Is that what y'all do? I hear you, girl. Okay, we can get you out. She's not hurting. She's just upset because she's locked in the back with the boys. But they're not bothering her. Oh, no. Sorry about that. I was watching her and I caught my foot on a board and fell. Ryan, I'd love to do that. You know, I was scared to do the interview with Wes, and I talked to him on the phone a few times before we actually did the interview, and he told me he'd give me a way to get onto his web page site, his internet site, and Wes has been really good to me. I can't say anything negative about that man. He's helped me tremendously. But I went on and I read a lot of the comments that people have posted. I know it, girl. Are you ready to come out? But a lot of people were talking about how much it helped them, the interview, and then coming back and reading the comments. And so I agreed with Wes on doing it, and I'll tell you, it helped me tremendously. Up to that point, I didn't go in the woods one time before the sun was up, and I didn't stay after the sun went down. If it was dark, I was not there because of what happened to me. Come on, girl. Come on. But after the interview, I have been out in the woods, not a lot, probably 10 times. In hunting season, I'm out there. Oh, gee whiz, probably, if we had 100 days of hunting season, I would be out there 90 of it. Because the meat that we harvest while hunting is what my family lives on. And that interview and reading the comments that people wrote, and there were a couple that were negative, but from what I gathered, this was comments from either children or people that have never encountered one of these things. I've had, I don't know, probably 6 encounters that were close, and I've seen the creature in its fullness, head to toe, but I've only had the one encounter that was bad. But all of them scared me. I'm still scared of them, but I'm fascinated with it. When you see one, an hour later, you're still shook up from seeing it, but you start questioning if you really did see something. Louie, leave him alone. Yeah, Crystal, I actually, not too long ago, I started listening to Dogman Encounter, I think is the name of the show. That guy Vic, and those encounters are absolutely frightening, some of them people have. But that guy, I couldn't imagine the hundreds of people that he's helped. So I know, just talking to Wes, that one interview, we've had several phone calls, but the interview, what you hear on the recording, the interview was twice as long. We talked a while on the phone before he actually did the interview. And if you guys are curious to hear the one with Wes that I did is called the One-Eyed Sasquatch. And yes, SoCal, you're right, buddy. Hey, Rick, I see you. Good to see you. But the One-Eyed Sasquatch, what it was, on Panama City Beach, the last place you'd ever think you'd see something like that. That beach is an island. The south side of it is beach. It's Gulf front, sandy shoreline, just your typical beach. The northern end of it is thick, heavy woods. And we were behind a subdivision called Colony Club. It's a golf course and a driving range and some fancy, the middle class and upper class homes. Well, there was an old dirt road that went back when they used to log that area. Louie's eating the corn and stuff the ducks don't eat. But they call it, the name of the road now, they paved it, it's called Moonlight Bay Drive. And back at the time we had our encounter, there was 4 of us. And I think I was around 19 years old, and I had my girlfriend at the time, which later became my wife. She's passed on many years ago. But we were dating then, and her and I were in the front seat. I was driving. My best friend Eddie was behind me, and his girlfriend Christy was in the passenger side back seat. We had no money. There was no going to get a 6-pack of beer. There was none of that. We were all broke. We lived paycheck to paycheck, and it was a few days before any of us got paid. I think only 2 of us worked, me and Eddie. But we went out. If you guys Google Earth, if you pull up on Panama City Beach, the Colony Club golf course, it may be called the Colony Club driving range. I don't recall. But zoom in and look for Moonlight Bay Drive. And if you'll follow it down, coming from the south and headed north on Moonlight Bay Drive, it stops at a T, and you have to go left or right. And if you turn to the left, I don't know about now, but back then it went about 100 foot, and then it made a hard 90-degree turn back to the north, and it came to a dead end at the water's edge, at the bay, which is West Bay. Well, I drove a 77 4-door Chevrolet Nova, and I pulled down that dirt road. I couldn't go to the end by the water because of the sand that was right there. So I parked. We were probably 50 foot from the actual bay, and I got out and sat on the hood, driver's side, and Celeste, that was my girlfriend at the time, she got out and she come around. I had my legs hanging over the driver's side tire, front tire, and she stood between my legs, and we were talking, you know, two teenagers dating, just talking garbage. And Eddie and his girlfriend stayed in the back seat. These two guys were wanting love. Thomas there won't leave me alone, but I was talking to Celeste, and over her shoulder, right at the edge of the road, it dropped down about 3 foot, and there was a little ditch filled with water, about 2 feet wide, and then it went up into planted pines, and they were 10 or 15 foot tall. Well, over her shoulder, down at the edge of that ditch, right there close to the water, I seen a fluorescent green glowing eye, and it was elongated, and I stared at it, and it started moving. And I told Celeste, I said, look, there's a bobcat or something by the water. And she turned and looked, and then she went around and got back in the car. She's originally from California, and she didn't want to have nothing to do with the wildlife. This Thomas is up on me. He's wanting me to love on him. He's spoiled. But anyhow, I sat on the hood and kept watching it, and it started rising up in the air. And so I hopped down, I walked to the back window, and I told Eddie, I said, look, there's a bobcat right here next to the water. It's climbing one of them saplings, them pine saplings. Well, Eddie, just making a joke of it, he said, I don't want to see no dang bobcat, and he rolled the window up real fast. I had the manual windows in that car. Well, I went back up and hopped back on the hood, and I kept watching it, and it got to the point it was eye level with me sitting on the hood, and the land on that side of that ditch was about 3 foot lower than where the car was parked. They had, before they planted that, when they cleared it, they dozed all that dirt off, and that's where all the rainwater will run back into the bay, is through that low area. And so it's significantly lower. Well, when that green spot, when it kept rising, I realized there wasn't any sound. And down in Florida, it's either pine trees or oak trees. And even a little lizard climbing up a pine tree, you'll hear it from 15 feet away. The pine bark is real crackly. It makes a lot of noise. And if that were a bobcat or a possum or anything climbing it, it would have been loud. And there was no sound. And that's when I really got spooked. And I had no idea what it was. It wasn't flying, because it was so stationary. It wasn't fluttering around like a firefly. It was real smooth and like fluid movement. Well, then it kind of swung downward in just an odd movement, and it rolled back up, but it kind of shifted to the right a little bit from where it originally was, and it was a little bit higher, and it looked like a triangle that was turned sideways. So it had a point on the left side, a point at the top, a point at the bottom, but the right side, where it should have been flat, was sort of rounded. It was just a really odd profile. And then it swung back down, it moved back to the left again, and then it came back up a few inches. And I was looking at, if you look in the mirror at your eye, the white part of our eye is what I was seeing. That's what was glowing. I seen a fluorescent green eye with a solid black pupil, and I panicked. I jumped down, I got in the car, and I crunk it up, and I started doing this 8-point turn, because it was a little single trail, just a little two trail. There was nowhere to turn around. You had a row of pine trees, a lot of planted pines on the passenger side of the car, and then one row of pines on the driver's side, and then the ditch directly behind it. And I was trying to position the car to get the headlights on it, because it wasn't maybe 10 feet from me, 8 to 10 feet when I was sitting on the hood. And I finally got the headlights, and Celeste started screaming, and she slid down on the floorboard on her back, and she was kicking my leg with her feet. And Eddie started yelling, and he was punching the roof of the car, and he was hitting the headrests on my seat. And Christy started screaming. I think she went down on the floorboard also, and everybody was screaming, but I couldn't see what they were screaming at. The driver's side headlight was the pine tree that was right there between me and that ditch. He was behind the pine tree, and I got the bumper until I bumped into the pine tree, and I stopped. Well, my headlight was blocked out because of that tree, and the passenger headlight was shining on him because I could see the shadow of a person to the left of that tree. I couldn't see him because he was behind it, but I could see the shadow of a man standing there. And there was no way anybody could have got out there, because we would have had to come up on their vehicle, and there's nowhere to park. If they would have parked, we wouldn't have been able to get out there. It's just about a 2-mile stretch, and it has there's nowhere to park. There's no side areas. It's just one straight dirt road. And it ended up that I backed the car up one more time, and they were screaming and yelling the whole time and kicking. And I mean, it was chaos in the car, and all the windows were up. And I pulled forward, and I turned the wheel as far left as I could turn it. And then he came into view, and he was only 5 feet from the front of my bumper, and the headlight was hitting him square in the chest. And this thing was standing there. His body was facing me, but he had his head turned, looking out over the bay. So I was seeing the right side of his face. And right at his eyebrows, his head went back. It looked like the Neanderthal. The pictures of the Neanderthal, the head angled way back, but his head was too small for his body, but it was all deformed looking. And then he turned toward me. He looked right at me, and he had 2 eyes, but his left eye, the whole side of his face looked like somebody shot him with a shotgun. It was mangled. The eye was gone. It was just a big pile of hamburger. I mean, it was mangled up bad. I don't know if he got shot. I don't know what happened to him, but he only had 1 eye. There were 2 eyes, and either something bigger than him got the best of him, or maybe he did get shot, or an animal attack. I don't know. But he was, this thing didn't look like the other ones that I've seen. He had very short hair over his entire body. Everything was covered. It was a male. All his genitals were exposed, but he was covered in what looked like fur, probably an inch long. And he was light colored, like a dirty blonde, and he had orange, black, brown, and a red color splotching all over his body, like a camouflage, the old school camouflage. But it was his entire body. And his knees either had mud on them, or the skin was a gray, like a cigarette ash color gray. I don't know, but he wasn't doing anything bad to us. It scared me. It scared all 4 of us. But I was locked. I was so scared I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed, and all the yelling and screaming in the car, it sounded like a whisper. I couldn't hear anybody. And then finally, when he turned and looked back at me, from his chest up, his head, everything was in the headlights, and you wouldn't think he'd be able to see me through the windshield, but somehow I knew that he looked directly into my eyes. and it felt as though he knew everything about me in that instant. And he looked down at that little ditch, and he took a step in the ditch coming toward us. And that's when I snapped out of it, and I threw it in reverse. And I don't know how we got out of there. He didn't chase us. He never came up to the car. But we took the girls home, and I stayed the night at Eddie's house that night. And we didn't say one word, none of us, the entire drive to take them home and to go back to his house. But we woke up his mom and his stepdad. It was about midnight when we made it back. And his stepdad called somebody down in Central Florida that he knew. And he handed the phone to me, and he said, describe to this guy what you saw. And I started describing it, and this man cut me off, and he finished an exact description of what I saw in detail. And I asked him, I said, that's exactly what I saw, and how did you know? And that was the very first time I've ever heard of skunk ape or Sasquatch. And he told me that's a skunk ape. And I never heard of that. And I told him, I said, no, this was not a monkey of any type. This was like a man. He looked deformed. His proportions were really out of whack. He had way too much muscle for his frame. Everything about him was off. It was like a dream. And he said, a skunk ape is a Sasquatch, and I didn't know what that was. And he explained it to me, but that was exactly what it was. And that was my very first encounter that I actually seen him. But that one didn't. It affected me. We were actually going to go back the following morning at daylight, because there would definitely be tracks right there. It's real muddy on that side of the ditch. And when we got up, it was storming. It was raining so hard. And we rode down there anyway. And we got down there, the ditch was about 2 foot deep. It was flooded out into the pines. And a few days later, when the water backed down, there wasn't anything. It washed away all the tracks. But that was my first encounter, and that was on Panama City Beach. Where'd you get that, girl? Let me see that. That's Rebecca. She just got a piece of plastic I had in my pocket. I don't know if she got it. She pulled it out. No, guys, she don't have nothing. They think I gave her a treat. Sorry. Go back to work. Yeah, Ryan, that was the very first encounter I had that I actually seen something. And we probably watched him before I got in the car and put the headlights on him. I was there 15 minutes or better, and I wasn't no further than about 10 feet from him. But he never, there was never any smell. He never growled at me. There was never any sound at all. He was extremely quiet. And the encounter I had in Marianna, that was the opposite. And that thing, he was covered in long hair. But he had a lot of balding areas, like on his chest, around just above what would be our belly button, our navel area. Just above it on him was bald. And he had like a dark gray, dry looking skin, like it had a powder over it. But that encounter in Marianna, Ryan, I'll be more than happy to share that with you. But if you've done them interviews before, I got you on here. I don't know what your schedule looks like today, but I do want to ask you something. Earlier this year, because of the encounters I've been having at our property and the ones up where I hunt at, it seems every month or so when something happens and it reminds me of one of them encounters, my memory of it, something changes. Like I'll remember something else that I should have remembered it right away when I was reliving the encounter, when I was sharing it when I shared it with Wes. I remember stuff now that I didn't remember at the time I talked to him. But The only thing I wasn't sure of, my friend that was with me, she seen him as like a red-black color, and I seen him as a black. But now, looking back, I'm thinking that it was a red, and now it's got me questioning, did I really have an encounter, or was it a hallucination? You know, it's bizarre when you run into one of these things. Yeah, Ryan, you're right, buddy. I've had a lot of extra, like a lot of sounds that I remember. That encounter in Marianna, it messed my life up. It really had a negative impact on me. I've always been very blessed hunting. The Lord's been so good to me. I've had a very successful hunting season every year up until that encounter. And it ruined my hunting for a long time. And last year, not this past season, but the one before it, was the best hunting season that I've had. And that was the season after I had the interview with Wes. And that interview's helped me tremendously. Yeah, Rick, you're absolutely right, buddy. You don't never forget, but some of the stuff I'm remembering now, I'm wondering if somehow my brain was blocking it out. I was never physically attacked. I didn't get there wasn't none of that where he put thoughts in my head. I've never experienced any of that. But like now I'm remembering sounds that I was hearing. That one in Marianna, because every now and then I'll have a dream. It's not quite a nightmare that wakes me up, but it's a bad dream, and it's like I'm reliving that encounter. But in the dream, I'm remembering, like when I was out in that peanut field, I was probably 120 yards from the trail where I had the encounter. I was way out in the field, and I remember hearing grunting. But I only remembered it in a dream I had just a couple of months back about that encounter, and I remember hearing the grunting, and I knew it was not a pig. A pig's got a very they got probably 15 different grunts, but if you ever hear the pig's grunts, it's unmistakable. You know them from everything else. And the grunt that I remembered in the dream, I don't really remember it happening during that encounter, but I have heard those same grunts in that area where I ran into the game warden that had them guys with him that were wearing the black uniforms. That area, you would hear the same grunts in there. And that area where I seen them two guys at, there's no pigs in that area at all. A lot of deer. There's a few of these guys, the turkeys, and there used to be a few bobcats in there, a few small ones, but that's about the extent of it. It's overloaded with deer. But the far end of that property has a swamp, and that's where the pigs are. There's a lot of pigs in that swamp. But that area where the game warden's at, it's mostly planted pines. There are some wet areas, but it's not enough cover for the wild pigs. What are you doing, Goomba? Come here, buddy. Let's go up here for a minute. Oh, I can see the screen now. Wow. Rick, where was that at? Can you guys, can you see what Rick has posted on there? You know, that 18-inch track that's huge. The one I ran into that a guy here, well, he's not in my city, but south of me is Panama City, Florida. And I was told by, I don't remember who set me up with him, but there's a man there that's connected with one of the Bigfoot groups that goes out and looks for the evidence, and they go searching for all the wherever people have encounters. Well, I had contacted him, and he picked me up, and he wanted to go up to that area hunt because I had one step out from behind a tree on me up there. And when I went back to my sitting spot, this thing, he sort of pushed me out of the woods. I left immediately because he was making these Indian sounds, like when kids play cowboys and Indians and they slap their hand over their mouth making that woo-woo-woo, that sound. He was doing that beside me, and it was so loud, but it scared me to the point that I left. But he trailed me all the way to the truck, and it's right at 870 yards from where I parked to where I hunt at in there. And he trailed me the entire way until I got to the little trail that goes straight to the truck, and you can see the truck from it. And he stopped. He didn't come out in the open. I only seen him the one time. But when that man got in touch with me, it was about 3 days after that encounter, and he wanted me to take him to that spot. And we went up there and walked back, and I showed him where I saw that thing at. And I thought it was about 6.5 foot tall. He stepped out. There was a pine tree, well, a lot of pine trees, but he stepped out behind it, and he had one hand still behind the tree like he was holding it, and 1 foot, the same side of his body. I think it was his left side. And I happened to glance over, and I seen him, and then on my left side there were 3 really loud cracks, like somebody taking a 4x4 and smacking a big hardwood or a sycamore tree with it. It was real loud, and I looked down there. Well, then it dawned on me I'd just seen one to my right, and I swung my head around, and he was gone. There wasn't nothing there. Well, I took the man in there, and he asked me where I seen it, and I told him, I said, that big pine that's got that huge oh, give me my shirt, Belle. I'm sorry, she caught my shirt. But there's we have a lot of poison ivy, and it gets huge. Some of them vines will get 2 inches thick, and they'll go all the way to the top of an 80-foot tree. And there's 2 vines alongside that tree, just kind of hanging about 1 foot off of the tree. And I told him, I said, right there next to that tree with the ivy vine. And he had me stand on the road about where I was at, on the little logging road, and he walked over there. And I told him, I said, that first little broken limb, his head was just a few inches under it. And I thought it was about 6.5 foot, and he walked over to it, and he measured it, and it was almost 9 foot to that limb. So he was every bit of 8.5 foot. And on the road, we went back, and he kept pointing, oh, there's a track there in the road, there's a track. Well, this dirt road's covered with pine needles and a few maple leaves and just our native trees. And I didn't see any tracks. I can see the deer tracks because they kind of fork the needles in, and he squatted down and just gently wiped the pine straw back, and there were bare footprints impacted in that dirt, and they were hard, like smashed in the ground. And he had me hold the end of the tape for him, and he held the other end and took a picture. But it was a little over 16 inches, and it wasn't a boot track, it was a footprint. And you could see the line. The one he took the picture of had a line through it, like the lines on the palm of your hand. You could see a line through it. It was the weirdest thing, but I didn't realize he was that big. He didn't seem that maybe 50 feet from me, but he wasn't nowhere near the size of that one in Marianna. But there, I couldn't imagine. I never went back to Marianna. That spot, we had a contract to clear the wild hogs off of that farmer's land, and the farmer, the man who owned that land, he let it go. It was 2,400 acres, and he completely let it go. And the soil out there is amazing. You can grow anything in it. And he claims it was due to the pigs. And there were 5 of us on that contract. And I didn't find out until the early part of last year that the other 4 guys also had an encounter with the same thing out there. They never told me. But that night when that happened, I never went back. And I've got several hunting stands out there, tree stands. A few of them are extremely expensive. I've got, I think, 5 hog traps out there. I've probably got $4,000 worth of gear that I've left out there and never went back. They can have every bit of it. It ain't worth it to go back and have to put up with that again. But it was, if you guys ever, I think that same encounter on Wes's show, the Sasquatch Chronicles. I don't remember the episode. I think it's 397. I think I may be wrong on there. I'm sure I am. But the name of it is the One-Eyed Sasquatch, and if I remember right, it's got both encounters on it. Oh, the turkeys don't like the sirens. Sorry. Yeah, Ryan, I absolutely will, buddy. Absolutely. I would love to speak with you on there, and I haven't had much of an encounter within things with the dog heads on them. I've had a few of my friends on here on the channel have took screenshots of where I've captured them in some of the hikes that I've done and one of the live streams, and I never seen them. I didn't know they were there, and they emailed me the screenshot they took of it and the little number at the bottom of the video, the timestamp, for me to go back. And I never seen them when I was out there, and I don't know what to think about it. It's scary that something that big would be that close to you, and you never know. You know, it kind of gives you a different perspective on the people that have gone up missing without a trace. A very scary perspective of that. I couldn't imagine going out that way. That would not be, it wouldn't be something I'd be interested in for sure. But Ryan, I'll definitely, after I close this out, I'll get in touch with you on there. I don't do a whole lot on my Facebook, but I got a page on there, and I post videos from some of the other channels on here that I like. Dixie Cryptid, I post some of his stuff, and Lynn from Bigfoot Case Files. Yeah, Crystal, I don't remember which episode it was. It was either 373 or 397. It was somewhere up between the 370 and 400. I'm sorry. It's somewhere up in there, but it is titled The One-Eyed Sasquatch. And the episode where the 4 of us were on the beach and we ran into that one that had the eye missing, it was frightening seeing that. Your brain just doesn't work right when you see something that isn't supposed to exist. The one in Mariana, that one ruined me. It really impacted my life horribly. I'm still dealing with a lot of blowback from that. But I've had other encounters, and they weren't bad, but they weren't really good, I don't guess. They all scare me. Even if nothing happens other than they step out and I see them for a second, it scares me. If you haven't never seen one, these things are big, and it's hard to describe a creature, a living, breathing creature, when you see something that big, to know that he could grab you so easily and crunch you. If you can imagine the difference between us, the strength difference between us and like a newborn kitten, how small and frail they are. That's the way you feel when you see these things. You feel so puny, and we wouldn't stand a chance if they ever turned on us and left the forest to attack mankind. It would take our military to stop these things. They're so big, and I don't blame them ever seeing what a gun would do to one. I'll never shoot at one unless I don't have a choice, and I hope that never happens. I just don't want something that big mad at me, especially if I'm the one that hurt him and made him mad. Rick, how many encounters have you had, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah, SoCal, you are absolutely right. Some of them things are huge. You know, Ryan, I just seen your post. I'm sorry. I get in the sunlight and I can't read what's on the screen. But yeah, you're right. I haven't looked at it that way, but yeah, I've heard a lot of encounters of these Sasquatch creatures attacking people, attacking their campers, attacking their vehicle, charging them and throwing things at them. And a lot of the encounters with them dog creatures it's like it toys with the people. But you're right, I haven't really heard much of where they actually have attacked the person, but they toy with them, like they scare them to get them out of their area, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to run into one of them, I don't think. Maybe at a distance, behind a whole bunch of armor. I don't want to run into one without some type of protection. Ryan, I've never heard of either one of them. Are those down here? Or are they in our country? I can't pronounce that first one you wrote. Ginosqua? Or Gugwe? I don't think I've heard of either one of them, to be honest. Yeah, I'm reading Ryan's comment on them. The Ginosqua. Are they the same type of creature as the Sasquatch? I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep one of the goats in frame, but then the sun hits the screen and I can't read what you're writing on it. Sorry. Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think I want to run into either one of them. Have you guys ever thought about where these things possibly came from? I seen a show just recently, and they were talking about the Sasquatch. People run into them, and they usually run into these balls of light, and sometimes they'll see them step out of a ball of light. Have y'all heard about that? Because I've seen balls of light, but they've been in the sky. I've seen them do some really weird stuff, but I've never seen one on the ground. And I've never seen one around one of them big creatures either. Yeah, I definitely will, Ryan. Here in a little while, I'm going to close this out. I'm trying to get something lined up, try and get to one of these areas. I'm afraid to go anywhere right now with this mess that's going on, this virus. I don't know what to think of that. I don't know if any of you guys ever watch any of BP Earthwatch's videos. He really puts out some good information, and he's on top of a lot of things, like the sun, what the sun's doing. And one of the things I've noticed with BP Earthwatch is if he posts a video and tells you to be on the alert that a certain area of the world or the country is going to be hit by earthquakes and the following day or 2 days, you can count on it happening. He's been dead on the money. But he had posted a video today, and he was talking about the numbers. Yeah, Crystal, BP's awesome. I love Jesse. But he had a video up today, and he was talking about the deaths with coronavirus versus the flu. And he said there's like 4,000 deaths from corona, and there's 189,000 from the flu this season. But they're not taking the flu into panic like they're doing this corona. And I don't know what to think of that. A lot of what's happening, if you guys have ever read the Georgia Guidestones, it's bizarre, and it may be conspiracy, but it really is lining up with what's happening right now. A lot of that is. And I don't know what to think about it. The day I look forward to is the day the Antichrist comes into power. And if he's running for president, I will vote for him, because he has to come into power before our Lord returns. The Christ of the Most High God is not going to show up until the Antichrist comes into power. And that's the only reason I would vote for the Antichrist. Not to support him, but to speed up the process of Yeshua returning. Things will be much better once God takes back over and straightens this crazy earth up. Because us humans have just about ruined it. But if any of y'all if you ever research any of the ancient writings, not the common Bible, personally, I have a lot of difficulty accepting the Holy Bible as the Word of God, because it's been altered so many times by mankind. And yeah, Ryan, you're right, buddy. Absolutely. If y'all get the opportunity, research the copper tablets. They're older than the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they're older than the old Sanskrit scrolls that were found. I think they're the oldest prophetic writings that have been found to date. I could be wrong on that, but from what I'm remembering, I think they're the oldest. But there's a man that is he has translated them, and it's a direct translation into English, but it sounds like a foreigner just learning to speak English. It just sounds messed up, but he didn't alter the translation. He translated it exactly as it was written, and it's creepy. There's a lot of talk about UFOs and beings coming out of these craft that come from the stars. And a lot of what they describe are, like Crystal I said, the Nephilim, and these Sasquatch things, they may be part of them Nephilim. You know, they're supposed to be, the Nephilim are supposedly half angel, or they got the DNA of the angels and DNA of mankind. And from what I have found out through what little bit of research I've done, the few places that have pulled DNA from the Sasquatch evidence, it shows that there is a lot of human DNA or human traits in that DNA. But the other is unknown. Could it be unknown because it's not of this world? I don't know. It's confusing. But if a few years ago I started looking into the ancient writings, that was back. There was a time when our Creator, the Almighty, He walked the earth in human form, and it wasn't as Yeshua, what many of you guys know as Jesus. It wasn't Him. This was way back. I don't know how far back, 10,000 years, 12,000 years ago. But God himself walked the earth in human form. He walked alongside people. And there was a communication. They talked without ever opening their mouth. A lot of spiritual talking, like telepathy. But when these ancient scrolls and tablets, when they were written, mankind didn't know how to lie. That wasn't part of their DNA at all. And if you can pull that ancient writing up, it's scary, but it also sheds a whole new light on creation and the end time events. It just sheds a completely new light on it. And it's fascinating. It's actually something to look forward to. The way I see it, it's not doom and gloom like Revelations says, the end. If you change the way the Revelations is written, all the diseases, everything in Revelations will be placed on you if you add to that book. And the ancient writing isn't like that. It's far different. I'm sorry guys, I'm watching her. I don't think she's feeling too good. Are you alright, baby? Come here, girl. Hey, come here. You okay? I'm sorry, I'm just watching her for a minute. You see the little gold baby? See her tail up? That's a sign of a baby that's feeling good and in good health. When you see them with their tail down and they're kind of moping like she is, that's usually a sign of either worms or they've got a fever. And this little thing here, we lost her mother a while back. We went to church and we had a Saturday and Sunday service, a wonderful service, but a friend called and said, I think there's a goat out front of your house in the highway dead. And we got home and she got out one of the fences back on this other side here. She pushed under it. And usually Louis would get out, but he doesn't go up by the road, and people will blow the horn when they see him trying to scare him. And we think somebody may have blew the horn because she was almost across the highway, and we had to bury her. And so we had to intervene in raising her. And so she's been alone. A couple of the other babies have accepted her as their own. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm just looking at her feces and make sure she's not wormy. She may just be tired. I have to check her in a little while. But anyhow, we lost two mothers. One of them got into the yard with the dogs, come over the fence out front. That's the reason for the new fence. And the dogs got her. What are you doing, Gracie? Thank you, Rick. But yeah, it's heartbreaking when we have to bury these guys, any of them. We don't like losing them. Even some of them that cause trouble, we don't want to lose any of them. God's trusted us to take care of them and provide for them, and they're part of our family. Yeah, Crystal, I don't remember the site, but it's fairly easy to find. There's two really ancient writings. The copper tablets are it's amazing what the writing is, but when you find them, try to find the direct translation. It's very broken English, and the guy, from my understanding, the man who translated them, he didn't substitute any words to make it sound proper. He translated it directly into English, so it sounds like somebody just learning the language, but it's very easy to understand. It's extremely fascinating, but it will change everything that you think about the Bible, the modern Bible. It'll knock all of that out of the water. And I have a little more faith in the ancient writings than I do the modern. I hate to be that way, but it's my personal preference. I like the way things were written in the beginning, and they can't alter what's been engraved in copper or stone. You know, that can't be changed. Yeah, Rick, it's losing one of these guys is like losing a family member. And you know, I don't know if you guys know just how many we have here. We had to block the back off. I don't know if, let me see if y'all can see the back of the property. There's a, way back there, there's a blue house. There's a fence this side of the blue house. That's the back of our property. But they wouldn't stay out there at all. They don't go anywhere near that back section, and they don't go down near this side. But we had to block it off because the hurricane has busted some sections of the fence, and the poles are broke. They're standing, but if you push on them, they fold over. And we had a problem with coyotes out here one time before. I haven't heard them since, but I don't want to take the chance with any of these little guys. Yeah, she isn't feeling good. I'm gonna have to get her checked. She may have got wet. We had a pretty severe rain yesterday. We had a storm. A lot of wind. But no, all of our goats, they stay really close to the house. In the morning, they're all right here. Because of the morning sun, it shines through right here, and they lay here in the sun. But in the afternoon, they used to lay down here. But when the stuff started happening on this side of the fence, when it happens, you don't hear it from inside. But we poke our head out because we check on the goats constantly. And they'll all be standing right down up in here, and they're all facing the woods with that. Some of them have their nape of their neck standing up, and all of them are on high alert. And when that happens, I come out and we check, and normally there's something over here. And they don't act that way if it's a person. There used to be some kids they used to come down this little sinkhole when it was dry, and they would shoot, and we had to run them off a few times. We know the owner of that property, and he doesn't allow any shooting, but we don't roll a ricochet to hit one of our animals or hit us or Rosie, and so we kind of help him watch over his property. We keep people out. Let me see. Oh, I got you, Crystal. Yeah, we don't. My only internet is on my phone. Rick, thank you, buddy. Thank you for joining us. God bless you. It's always good to see you as well as the rest of y'all. And hopefully soon, I'll get an answer if I'll be able to do a live stream over there where he's having them creatures with the dog head. And if he does, then I'll be able to give you guys a date of when that's going to happen. And hopefully we can line it up on a weekend or something where everybody can take part in it. But Rick, you have a good evening, buddy. God bless you. And be safe. We'll see you soon. Yeah, Crystal, these guys they're probably one of the best alarm clocks or intruder alarms that we have. The turkeys, they'll sing out if they hear something high pitched. And this old girl here, that's Rosebud. We think she's getting near the end of her youth. She's really old. And we had to worm her here just recently, and I don't know if you can see her tongue, how light it is. She's still got some parasites. We're going to have to do her again. But she's a loner. Rosebud, the only animal she bonded with here at all was the horse. And Gypsy, that was the horse. She was getting really bad. She needed more more area where she could open up and exercise. And so we've relocated her to a friend's house who has a large pasture. And Gypsy's out there, and normally when we pull up to bring feed to her, she's about 300 or 400 yards away from the house, and she'll come running up to us. But Rosebud and Gypsy bonded. And so we're going to be taking Rosebud over there soon to hang out with her for a while. And if you ever think you need to go on a diet, just remember this view. This is Belle. She's got that little tiny butt right there, and all the rest of that is groceries. But she's the boss. Yeah, Crystal, I'm with you on that. I don't like them things. I can't believe how many times I've done a hike and somebody has seen one in the video and I've never seen it. I've gotten quite a few of the screenshots from people. I think the ones that you sent were the clearest that I've gotten. But I've gotten so many of them, and it's so blatant. They stand out like a sore thumb in the screenshot. But I swear, when I was out there, I never seen them. I would have left immediately if I would have seen something like that. Because that's just, that's frightful. For me it is, anyhow. I gotta check and see what my girl's doing. What are you doing, Mary? What are you doing, girl? You ain't supposed to be over here. Are you okay? You okay, girl? No, you just wanted me to get you on video using the bathroom. Sorry about that. I didn't know she was going to squat and pee. And that's Rosie's two babies. The lady that we picked up Goomba from, she gave those two chickens to Rosie. They were little, tiny, little pocket-sized peeps when she got them only a few weeks ago, and they're almost big enough to go in the big pen there. But guys, I hope you didn't get bored. I'm trying to update everybody on where we stand and what's going to be going on. I've had a lot of stuff happen that has kind of it set us back in time. We were doing really good. We were ahead of schedule on everything that we had planned, and then we got a lot of stumbling blocks thrown in front of us. But it's all good. Yes, SoCal, I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. I don't want to see nothing that big with the head of a dog. But I think the day's coming soon that everybody who lives near any type of wooded area is going to encounter one of these creatures, if not all of them. I think we're at that point in time. You know, the Bible speaks about the day that God opens the bottomless pit and he lets the beast out to wreak havoc on mankind that has turned their back on him. And who's to say we're not in that time now? I don't know. But it seems that way to me. If I can see that thing down there again this evening when I come and check, right through there, I don't know if I told you guys earlier, right through there, let me see if I can see it on the video, that little opening. The other night I was out here and there was something black, like blacker than black, and it was squatted down. I thought it was a shadow, and I was watching it over the phone and it started moving. And so I zoomed in on it, and it was 100% it was moving. And it looked like two people squatted down right beside one another, and one of them kept picking something up off the ground and bringing it over close to him, then grab it again. It was not a trick of the shadows, but I had the live stream going and I thought it was up, and it was not, and that video never uploaded. I'm going to try to take that clip if I haven't tried to play it out of my gallery. But if it's in the gallery, the whole clip, I'm gonna cut out that section and post it where you guys can see it for yourself. There was definitely something there. I don't know what it was. I got an idea what it was, but I did not identify it 100%. It's just what my brain thinks. Anytime I see something big and black and it moves nowadays, I think it's one of them caveman Sasquatch things. And guys, I'm fixing to shut it off. My phone is getting way down on battery, and I don't want it to cut off and me end up losing any of this. But thank y'all tremendously for joining me, and hopefully here very soon. They're supposed to lock us down, the state of Florida, tomorrow night at midnight. That's a tired baby. I don't want to wake her up. But Ron DeSantis said that tomorrow night at midnight, the state of Florida, we are locked down. We are not to leave our house except for necessities, doctor's appointments that can't be postponed, and emergency. And I think they're allowing us to go get groceries, but there is no more going to get a hamburger or anything like that. Crystal, thank you. SoCal, thank you. And Rick and Ryan, everybody that's on here, thank all of y'all. I'm so appreciative that you guys are still here. I was afraid I'd lost you guys' support. We've had so much go on, and sorry, I just checking the animals. It's been a circus lately, and it strikes me odd what happened with my phone. And a friend of mine, there was a link a few years ago he shared with me on a paper the Pentagon put out. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me see if I can zoom in. There's a little mouse. Oops. What did I do? I don't know. Can y'all see that little mouse? He's trying to get him some feed in a feed bucket right there. A little feed box. A little field mouse. There he goes. But anyhow, a friend of mine a few years ago shared a link with me, and he said, go to this page and take a screenshot of these documents and read them. And so that's what I did. Well, a few days later, that page was gone. And I clicked on the link that was in my text message from my buddy, and it did not work. And I tried all kind of keywords, and I contacted him, and he said he can't find it anywhere either. Well, that page, it was from, I believe it was the Pentagon that wrote it, but it was about them creating this bio type hazard, like the coronavirus, and it would be spread to the point, and if I understood it right, it wasn't actually going to be spread that far, but the media would spread it, as though it was really happening that bad. And then they would call a curfew to get control of this viral epidemic. And when the people panicked from the curfew, they would initiate martial law. And then to protect the National Guard and the soldiers that would be patrolling the streets for looting for the martial law, they would do a gun confiscation on those deemed dangerous for the protection of the policemen and the other men and women in uniform that were supposedly out to control the people from going crazy. And it was all pointing to bringing order out of chaos. But they, from the way, what I understood of it, they would initiate chaos, the government would. Well, now everything that was on that has started happening. And as soon as this coronavirus started here in our country, I woke up, my phone was dead. I couldn't turn it on at all. It wouldn't recognize the charger, and I had to have it replaced. They pulled my memory card because I had all my contacts. I had all my information on my memory card, and they said it was corrupted. Verizon told me that. I got the new phone, and none of my stuff from my other phone was on my Google Cloud. None of it. And it's just bizarre how all that happened, and it's probably coincidence, or I'm just imagining things. But my buddy that sent me that link, his phone died the same day that mine did, and he had the same exact things happening. His memory card was corrupt, and he wasn't able to save any of his contacts, his galleries, nothing. He lost everything also. And I wish I would have forwarded that to several other people, but I don't have people down here that I can trust. My friends are on YouTube, and a few people we go to church with, and I don't have many that wouldn't call me a conspiracist if I shared that with them, so I didn't. But now looking back, I wish I would have, because if everybody's phone died the same time, that everybody that had that screenshot on it, then I would know without a doubt the government killed my phone. But anyhow, all our problems in the digital world started when coronavirus hit our shores. But I just want to share that with you. It's probably me just overthinking things, but no big deal. Thank y'all. Thank all of y'all. Crystal, thank you. It's always such a pleasure to hear from you. And hopefully this lockdown won't be long. As soon as they lift it to where I can get to some of these areas without risk of being arrested, I'm going to get out. I'm going to video the hikes like I have been doing, but I'm going to try to do it in shorter clips and see if it'll upload faster if I put the clips together. Right now, to upload a 10-minute video takes several hours. The short video I did today, and I think the one this morning, it was very short, and it only took about 20 minutes for it to come up. So hopefully I can figure out what's going on with it and we can get these videos up fast, because I've got some great areas I want to get to. Just one of them, I'm not going in there alone. There's Molly. She's due right now, so maybe we'll have a new baby here soon. But guys, y'all have a good evening. God bless you all. I wasn't talking to you guys, but y'all have a wonderful night. Thank y'all for joining me. And please be safe. Take care of yourselves, especially during these days. Whether this corona is real or not, stay on top of your health. Because when the government drops, when the economics drop in this country, we're dependent upon one another. We won't be able to rely on anybody else. And if we're not in good health, we're not going to survive this. SoCal, I'm working on it, buddy. I apologize for the absence. We've had a lot of, not so much hardship, just a lot of odd things have happened to prevent me from getting on YouTube. And it was very bizarre what I had to do to make it work. And I don't understand. The only thing that changed was my phone died and I got a new phone, and then everything hit the fan. But there's bells. I don't know if you guys seen that. That's the old sprinkler line. I pulled the other ones out and cut them off, and I went to cut that, and Belle was doing what she was just now doing, and they use that constantly to scratch themselves. It's not hurting nothing. It's not connected to anything, so I'm just going to leave it in the ground for now until we get their new playground built. Yep. Belle's a big one, SoCal. I mean, that's a lot of woman right there. A lot of woman. But y'all have a good night. If there's anything that we can do for you here at the rescue, please don't be shy about asking us, getting in touch with us. I'm going to post a video here. I probably won't get to it tonight. I've got things I've got to get done before bedtime. But maybe tomorrow I'll post a little short video. And I'm just going to post my email address for you guys to be able to get in touch with me. I know I'll get a lot of blowback from the people that badmouth me on here, but I don't care. I can block their emails. And if y'all ever run into a goat smaller than that, that's running on his own, please get a video of it and send it to me. Because that is just ridiculous, something to be that little. She's trying to find her mom. Her mama's little. Her mama's about 35 pounds, maybe. But y'all have a good night. God bless you. And be safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.